Welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to be doing a continuation of this part. Now we're going to be doing this one using 3D AutoCAD, and if you haven't saw me do this using 2D AutoCAD, that video is the one I did before this, so I'll make sure I link it at the end of this, right? So that video, and I'll just give you warning, is over an hour, and I wind up making that video in a series of 2 parts. So you can watch the first part and that'll get you through basically the rough drafting of it, the isometrics, and some dimensioning, and then I go in and I explain to you a little bit more about how careful you should be when you're using paper space, especially when you're doing some kind of dimensioning. Now, once we do things using 3D AutoCAD, we don't have to worry about that, right? So before we get started on this, I also want to send a special thank you to the people that are watching these videos and that are subscribing and sharing these videos. You know, thank you for all of your support. It's really encouraging me to keep putting out more content for you. All right, so enough of playing around. Let's start doing this in AutoCAD 3D. Okay, so this right here is the reference video that I was referring to. So this is what I did using the 2D AutoCAD portion. So just recall that we did both of these isometrics doing 2D drafting using isometric, and then we created a couple of sheets, right? We created the first sheet, which basically gave this, and then the second sheet, which looks something like this, right? And I will also warn you that I actually cut those sections wrong. Those sections will not look like that, and you're going to see that when we get to the 3D portion. So these sections are actually created wrong, and that's one good thing about 3D is that if you cut those sections in 3D, they will show you if they are incorrect and correct. Now, another thing that you're going to see us create here is that I'm going to also put that isometric here, right? We can do that exact same thing here in the 2D portion of this by if we jump back to model space. And then I have to go find that view, which is located here, right? And then if I grab this and just do a quick copy of it, right? So I'll just go to copy. And then I'll grab this one and I'll bring it over here like so. And then let's go ahead and close that and go back to sheet number 2. You will see that I can get that isometric in this. Now, you're going to have to go back and refer to that video to see how I created this and why this is working like that, and why I would have to do something different to do it in this video, right? So go ahead and go to that one, but let's go ahead and jump over it and start doing the 3D of this one. Now, I've already hit the sprocket button here in the bottom right. So I clicked on this and I'm already on the 3D modeling. So if your ribbon does not look like mine, that's going to be the reason why, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start off by creating a new drawing here. So I'll go ahead and click this icon here. And like I was saying, it's going to stay with the last settings that I had, right? So it's going to keep this setting open. I also have my properties window here open. I'll go ahead and close that for now. And then I'll go ahead and do the normal stuff I usually do. I'll go ahead and turn off the grid, and then I'll verify that my ortho is turned on, right? So now we have both of those drawings, and I don't know if I ever shown this in some other videos, but these are just quick ways of opening up or creating a new drawing. Right, so we still have our original drawing that I was just referring to open here, and we're going to have this one open here. Okay, so if we refer back to the drawing on this, we have to decide how we're going to create this, right? And I'm going to bring up the drawing here in a little bit, but I want you to start thinking about what's the easiest way, or what's the path of least resistance, so to say, for me to be able to create this. And what I mean by that is, how am I going to achieve something like this, right? So if I'm kind of looking around at this and I'm going like, all right, can I make parts of this, or can I build off of it? And if you refer back to the last 3-dimensional drawing I did in AutoCAD, where I kind of gave you a couple of different options on how you can draw things or how you can create this one clearly has one distinct way I have to use, right? You're going to see that I have to kind of create this part here, and then I have a couple of cylinders here, and then I have another shape that's located here. So when I look at this, I'm going, all right, is that the easiest way for me to build this? And in this case, it might be our only way. So we're going to have to create these as individual parts. Okay, so with that being said, what I'm going to start off by doing is creating some circles, right? So I'm going to first start off by creating a circle with a radius, right? And I'm going to do this just typing in the keys, right? And I'm kind of purposely doing this because this is going to speed up your keystroke. So if I just type in C, enter, right? And that just stands for circle. I'll go ahead and click here, and then I'll start previewing my circle, and then I'll type in 15. So the reason I can do this and I don't have to specify a radius is because default in the circle command, if you look down on my command line, it says specify a radius. So anytime I create a circle, just by hitting C, enter, it's going to automatically assume that you want to create a radius circle, right? So here's 15. I have my circle here. Let's go ahead and zoom out. And then what I'm going to do next is I need to create a circle on the inside of this, and it has a diameter of 20. So using that same principle, I'll go to C, enter. I'll go touch this circle and find the center. Click here, kind of give myself a preview of it. Now, if I'm looking on my command line and saying, hey, you need to specify a radius, at this point I have two choices I can use. I can either, well, three cases actually. I can either select the word diameter right here and it'll switch over to diameter. I can type in D, enter, and then that will switch me over to diameter, or I can do the math myself. So if we're thinking about a 20 diameter, then what is the radius of that, right? So that's one of those things you're going to have to ask yourself and go like, okay, well, if I know that the diameter is 20, then the radius has to be half of that. Therefore, it'll be 10. Any one of those methods will work. Now, since I'm typing in stuff here, I'll just type in D, enter. That'll switch me over to a diameter, and then I'll type in 20. All right, so now I have that circle here. Let's go ahead and draw a line going across here. Now, I don't have to draw this line, but I find that if you are a beginning person, or if you don't quite understand how to create circles based off of a location of another circle, then drawing a line, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'll do this again on the other example, and I won't draw the line in between it. So I'll go with line, enter, so L, enter. I'll go and select this center. And then I'll come this direction, right? My ortho is on, as long as I'm pointing this direction. I'll type in 100. Go ahead and hit escape. And then I'm going to go ahead and create two circles here at this endpoint. So I'll go C, enter. I'm going to click on this endpoint. The first circle that I'm going to create has a radius of 35. And then I'll go ahead and create another circle. So C, enter. I'll go to the center here. I'm going to preview my circle. And then I'm going to go D, enter. And then type in 50. Right? We're going to go ahead and draw a line from this tangent to here. So L, enter. And I like to type in some of my O snaps. It makes it a little bit easier for me. So I'll just type in TAN, hit enter. Click here. Type in TAN again. Hit enter. And then click here. Let's go ahead and hit escape. And then I can either choose to mirror this across or do that same step again. Since we're using different commands, I'll just type in MI, enter, select this line, enter. And then I want you to go ahead and click that endpoint to this endpoint. And then hit enter, right? I don't need this line anymore. Let's go ahead and delete it. And then we're just going to trim. So trim is TR. Go ahead and hit enter and then trim off these extra portions. All right, so we're done with this shape now. Let's go ahead and create another shape similar to this one. So I'll go back to the circle command. So C, enter. I'll click here, give myself a radius of 35. I'll go ahead and put in my other circle here. So once again, C, enter. I'll go and find the center here. This is going to be a diameter, right? So I'm going to go D, enter. And then I'm going to give it a diameter of 50. All right, so what I'm drawing here is that this side matches up on this side, right? And I'm drawing this link piece. Now, what I was referring to before is that I need to create a circle that's located 100 away from here. I always kind of think about two different options or what I can do. First option you can do is that you can just copy this circle over. And actually, if I want to be a little bit more proactive, I can copy both of them over and change them in the properties window. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I just wanted to show you that if I wanted to draw a circle in reference to this center away from it, we can do that as well. So C, enter. I want you to touch Then once you get the green tracking symbols, as long as those green tracking symbols are showing on my screen and I'm going that direction, I'll type in 100. Go ahead and hit enter. Then I'll type in the radius, which is 35. All right, let's go ahead and put our other circle on the inside of that. So I'll go back to C, enter. Go ahead and find the center of that circle. Do a click on the center and then kind of preview it. D, enter. And then the diameter of this circle is going to be 60. All right. So from here, I'll just draw a line from this quadrant to this quadrant. And I don't know if I showed you, but my running O snaps that I currently have on are going to be these. Okay. Let's go ahead and draw a line at the bottom. So I got a line going from here, going straight across to here. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and trim this, right? So let's go to the trim command. So TR, enter, and then trim off these portions. All right, so we have both of those created. Now we need to create those two cylinders, right? So I'm going to draw a circle. So C, enter. I'll click here. This first circle has a diameter of 50. So I'll go D, enter, 50. I'll put a circle right on the inside of that. So I'm just hitting enter. It will take me back to the last command I used. Go ahead and click this center. Give myself a preview. D, enter, and then 30. That's one cylinder. And then I'll go ahead and create the other one here. So C, enter. I'll click here. This has a diameter of 60. So I'll go D, enter, and then 60. Go back to the circle command. So hit enter. Go find the center. Click here. Give myself a preview. D, enter, and then type in 40 for my inside diameter. Okay. So that should be all the parts that I'm going to need to create both of these views. Now, what I'm going to attempt to do is I'm going to attempt to create what's on sheet 1. I need to create 2 of these parts. All right. So the easiest way of me doing that is I'm going to create the first one, and then I'm going to basically copy it and then do a little manipulation to rotate it. All right. Let's go ahead and put this in an isometric view. And then I'm also going to change to a 3D wireframe. And the next thing I need to do is remember that these are 3-dimensional parts. You're always going to have to verify and make sure that these are joined together. And I know when I created these pieces, they are not joined together. You can see that they're each individual pieces. Now I can use the join command, just J, enter. And then I'm just going to tell AutoCAD, since all of these parts are created, just select all of them. So I'll type in the word all. So J, enter, all, enter. And then it's going to select everything on your screen, and then it hit enter one more time. Now, if you read on your command line, it says, hey, I created 2 polylines for you and 8 objects were discarded. Circles don't have to be created as polylines. They're already done for us. So it said, hey, I created this as a polyline for you and this one as a polyline for you. That's exactly what we want to see. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and start extruding some of this. These 2 are going to have a height of 20. And then this one is my long piece here. This should have a height of 95. And then finally, this should have a height of 40, right? So let's go ahead and go to extrude. Make sure you select both of those circles as well as my polyline there. Go ahead and hit enter, come down, give it a height of 20. Go do the next one, right? So I'm just going to hit the enter button. That's going to take me back to the extrude command. I'll go ahead and select that polyline in these 2 circles. Enter. Give it a direction, and then give it a height. So I'm going to aim downward, and then I'll just type in the height of 20. Okay, let's go ahead and do the next one, right? So I'll just hit enter. Takes me back to the extrude command. I'll select both of these circles. Go ahead and hit enter. Come down. This is going to be a height of 95. And then finally, the last one, I'll just hit the enter command. I'm going to select these 2 circles. Enter. I'm going to give it a direction, and then I'll type in the height of this one, which should be 40. Okay, so this is where wireframe can kind of fool you because they do look like the 3-dimensional shapes that I need. But if I take this and take a look at it in something like shades of gray, you're going to see that those do not have a center actually to them. I like to usually kind of do my subtracting in a wireframe. So I'll jump back to wireframe, and then I'll go to subtract. Remember, with the subtract command, we're going to select the object I want to keep first. Go ahead and hit enter. And then select the 2 circles on the inside of this one. And then hit enter. right? Now let's go ahead and take a look and see what actually we done. You know, nothing changed here, but if we take a look at this in shades of gray, you will see that it does have those cutouts for those holes on the inside. The reason why I try to avoid doing subtractions in anything other than wireframes is because sometimes these cylinders are hard to select. So they're a lot easier to deal with if you're using a wireframe. All right, let's finish doing the subtractions. So let's go to subtract. I'm going to select the object I want to keep first. Go ahead and hit enter. Select the two cylinders on the inside and then hit enter. Keep it going. So I'm just going to hit the enter button. That takes me back to subtract. Select the outside cylinder, hit enter, and then select the inside cylinder, enter. And the last one, I'll just hit enter again. I'm going to select the outside cylinder first, hit enter, and then select the inside cylinder and hit enter, right? So all of these now should be looking exactly like what we want. They're just three-dimensional parts. They have cutouts in them, all right? So that's exactly what we were trying to create here. Now we need to start putting some of this stuff together. Okay, so we have our long piece here, and then we're going to have this piece here, and it sits 15 away from the edge here, right? So let's kind of take a look at that in the drawing portion here. And the view that we're going to be looking at is going to be this one here at the top. So you can see that the number of 15 here is going to be my first number. That's what we're going to look at first, right? So I'm going to highlight that, and that tells me that that distance is 15 away. Then I'm going to take a look at the next one here. It's going to be this piece here. How far is that down? It's going to be a distance of 20 down, right? So you're going to see me go ahead and create these two numbers here just by going like, okay, that's going to be 15 down and that's going to be 20. So everything is going to be based off of our long cylinder here that we created that had a height of 95. Okay, so once we get those two in place, that's going to be easy. And then our last cylinder sits here. It has an overall height of 40. Remember, we kind of extruded it that way, and we're going to go ahead and specify that it has a distance of 10 from it, right? So these are going to be all the numbers that we're going to need to go ahead and set this up, right? So let's go ahead and jump back over to AutoCAD. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch my gizmo to the move gizmo, and then I'm going to go ahead and move this cylinder. So this is my kind of master cylinder, say, you know, for lack of better terms here. I'm going to go ahead and move this thing here. So I'll go to select it and go to move. I'm going to find the center at the bottom of this. And then I'm going to place it at the bottom of this one, right? So I'm at that center. And then I'm just going to place it right here at that center. Okay. So now we have that cylinder created where we want to create it. Now I need to move either the cylinder down or I can move this part up. In my case, I think I'll just move this cylinder down. So I'll go ahead and select this cylinder. I'll select this axis here. I'm going to come aim it downward. And then I'm going to type in that number that I need, which is going to be 15 going down that way, right? So now we basically located our first piece. Now we need to locate this piece, right? So I'm going to go back to the move command. I'm going to select this link looking piece. Go ahead and hit enter. And then I'm going to grab the top center of this one, and I'm going to place it on the top center of my cylinder here. Okay, and now I need to give that a distance between it. So I need to select my cylinder again. I'm going to select this axis here. I'm going to pull it downward, which is the blue axis, and then I'll type in 20. Right, so now we have those two pieces located, and I know it doesn't look like much here, but we're just going to keep kind of working with it, and then once we get it in shades of gray, everything should work its way out. Okay, let's go ahead and move this piece now. So I'm going to select it and go to move. I'm going to find this top center here, and then I'm going to go ahead and place it at this center along my top portion of this circle here. Right, and then I'm going to move that cylinder again. So I'm just going to select it, and then I'll select this blue axis. I'm going to aim it up, and I'll type in 10. Right? Okay, so now we have all of our shapes created. Let's go ahead and put this in a good isometric. So I'm just going to kind of work my way around till I have it this way. And then you know me, I like to kind of set it up exactly like how my drawing is set up. So I'm just going to rotate this. I'm going to switch my gizmo to a rotate gizmo. I'm going to highlight all of this. select this red axis, and then I'm going to go straight up in the air, right? So I'm going to go click here. And then you can see that this part is in the back, so I actually need to rotate this thing 180 degrees. And if we look at it in shades of gray, you'll see exactly what I'm referring to. This piece here is actually in the front. So I'm just going to highlight it here, select this red axis, and then I'll come out this direction here and do a click here. And now you can see that it is facing in the correct orientation, right? So now I want to create the other obstacle. And remember that if, once again, I'm referring back to the drawing here, is that we want to create this one. The only difference between these two drawings is that this little front piece is rotated up at a 45-degree angle, right? So what we need to do here is that we're going to take a look at it in the front view, right? And then I want to just use a regular rotate on this piece. But before I do that, because remember, I need to make a copy of this. So I'm just going to go to the copy command first. I'll highlight all of this, hit enter, pick a base point, and then I want to go upward or either to the left or to the right. It doesn't really matter as long as it is away from it. So now I have two of them, right? I have an original one and I have one that's rotated. Doesn't matter which one that you want to change. Okay. Now, if I want to use the regular rotate command, remember the first thing that we have to do is take a look at our UCS. The regular rotate command spins things around the Z-axis. So I need to orient my UCS to be in the Z facing this direction. There is one quick way of doing that. And here underneath the drop down, I can select here, and this first icon says, hey, I can go ahead and flip it to this view. So I'm looking at this view, at the front view, right here. And then once I select that, I want you to kind of take a look at my UCS and what will happen. Once I select this icon here, you see that the y-axis is pointing up, the x-axis is pointing to the right, and the z-axis is coming straight at me. So with that being said, now I can rotate this using a 2D rotate. So I'll go to rotate. I'm going to select just that front part, go ahead and hit enter. Go find a center, and it doesn't matter which center you place here. Go ahead and click here. And remember that the same principles apply. Counterclockwise is positive. Well, I want this to go clockwise. Therefore, my value will be a -45. Go ahead and hit enter, and you will see that that thing should flip up. And then it's always customary to go ahead and put your UCS back to the world coordinate system, right? All right, now we have both of our views drawn, right? So this was a lot quicker than what we had to do when we did the 2D portion of drawing this, right? There was a whole lot of little views and stuff of that nature that we had to create. Now let's go ahead and jump over to the layout tab here and start doing some drafting work, right? Okay, so now we're here. Let's go ahead and delete this viewport here. And then I'm going to create a quick title block, right? So I'll go to rectangle, 0, 0, enter. And then the other corner should be at 11, 8.5. I'll use the offset command just by typing in O, enter. Type in a distance of 0.25, enter, and then select here to the inside. Okay. Now I need to go ahead and kind of get my paper to go around my title block. So what I usually do is go to layout 1, do a right click on it, go up to where I find page setup manager. Wait for the dialog box to appear. I'll go ahead and hit modify. DWG to PDF. I'm going to select the ANSI full bleed A size 11 by 8.5. Then I'll select a window. I'm going to select this endpoint here, going down to that endpoint. Okay. I will center it. And then I'm going to leave this set to 1 to 1. Go ahead and hit the OK button and then close, right? All right, let's go ahead and draw a line going straight down the middle here. So a line, and I'm just using L, enter. Go from this midpoint going straight up to here. Okay, so on this side, I'm going to create one view. And then on the other side, I'm going to show you the other view, right? So the way that we're going to do this here is that underneath the layout tab, we're going to go to base. And then we're going to go from model space, right? So I'm going to click here. And what it should be happening now is that it's going to pull up both of those views from model space, right? So you'll see that I have both of those models created. And I have both of them right now that are following my cursor around. If I only want one of them to follow me around, come to where it says model space selection, and then deselect the one that you want. And the way you're going to do that is I'm just going to hold down the shift button. I'll do one single click here, come across, and then one single click here. And I'm still holding that shift button down. Once you let go of the shift button, then you're going to hit return to layout. Once you do that, now you should have only one view following your cursor. And then we're going to take a look at putting this in the northeast isometric view. All right, so there's my view as it is right now. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And let's see, 1/4 of an inch probably should work just fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and click. Well, before I click here, let's go ahead and make sure we don't have the hidden lines turned on. Let's just make it the visible lines. And then I'll do one click here. And I'm just going to hit enter afterwards, and then hit another enter, and then it should create my view, right? So a lot of quick, easy way to do an isometric. Let's go ahead and place the other one in here as well. So I'll go back to base. From model space, I'll select this model space selection, hold down the shift button, one click here, come across, one click here. Go to the return to layout. I'm going to select the northeast. And then I'll go ahead and adjust the size of this one as well to, I think I used 1/4 inch. And let's go ahead and change it from hidden lines to visible lines. And then I can go ahead and click here. Hit enter, and then another enter, and then you should have your view created, right? So now if you take a look, that view looks really similar to these two views, right? So we did that rather quickly, and we can put the text on here. Text is, it works exactly the same. If I come to the annotation, right, and then I want to use single line text, and like we did in the other one, if I'm not mistaken, I justified I put the justification of the text. Let's just go ahead and type in MC, stands for middle center. Click there. I'll click the middle center point, give it a height. Let's leave it at 0.2 for this case. Go ahead and hit enter, and one more enter because we don't have a rotation angle. And then I can type in, let's see, %% space ASSEMBLY 1. Then give it a space. And I'm purposely trying to do some things here. I'm just going to click off of it and hit escape, right? Now this text, I should be able to do some other stuff to it, and I don't know if I can get away with doing it here. I think I have to do it in when I'm doing multi-line text. But let me see if I can try some here. I'm going to double click on this text, right? And you can see that it's all lowercase. I'm going to select it, and then I'll do a right click on it. And then you see where it says change case. I'll click on uppercase, and then it should automatically adjust your text. So if you accidentally type something in lowercase and you want it to be uppercase, you can change that rather quickly, right? Let's escape out of that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and copy this over to here. So copy, I can use CO, enter, select this assembly, enter, pick a base point, and then click it here. Hit escape. And then I'll just double click on this one and change the last number to 2. Okay, so rather easy to do the first sheet. Everything works out fine, no problem. Now, if I want to copy this, and I don't want to have to create this title block over and over and over again, I'm just going to rename layout 1. So I'm just going to select it here, go to rename, and then I'll just type in sheet 1. Okay, so now that's been renamed. I'll do a right click on this, go to move or copy. Once the dialog box appears, put a check in the create a copy, and then select layout 2, because I'm going to put this one before that one, and then hit OK. Right, now you should have another one here at the bottom. I'm just going to select this one. So I double click on it, and you can see the only thing that it brings over is these words as well as my line. Let's go ahead and edit this text here. So I'm just going to select it here, do a right click on it, and then go to rename. And I'm just going to call this sheet 2. Okay. Now with this sheet 2 created, let's go ahead and delete this. And let's go ahead and kind of delete. Well, let's leave it for now. Let's just move them down. So I'll select both of them, hit M, enter, and just move them down. Okay. So in this one, I'm just going to create one view. Right? So I'll go back to the layout, choose base from model space. I'll go and select, and I only want to look at this view here, right? And remember that this is the front view that I'm going to be looking at. So I'm going to hold down the shift button, one click here, go across, and then one click. Let go the shift button, return the layout, right? Now I have my view that's following me around. Let's go ahead and make that, I think a 3/16 would probably work really good here. And let's use that one. I'm going to left click here. Go ahead and hit enter. And then I'm going to come up and place that dimension or that view here. And why not, since I have it, I'll go ahead and put an isometric up here in the corner by doing a left click here. Go ahead and hit enter. Okay. So now we have our views created, and you know we can adjust and we can kind of modify some of these views. So for example, I can double click on this one here. And I can come and tell it, instead of being that way, let's make it shaded with visible lines, right? Go ahead and hit the OK button. All right, so we have this view. Now, in order to create that section, and I'm going to show you both sections, I'm going to show you the correct one that I have, or that's going to show the correct view that I need, and I'm going to also show you the incorrect one, right? So I'm going to give you kind of two different ways of creating a section in this case. So the correct one first is I'm going to zoom down to this view. Let's go ahead and create a section. I'm going to select this view here as the parent. I'm going to find the center, touch it, do not click on it, track off of it, do a left click here, go straight across, do a left click here, hit enter, and then come up and click your view and go ahead and hit another enter, right? Okay, so this is what I have, right? Now, I want you to take notice of what you see also is that there are different ways that this hatch is shaded, right? So that's telling me right now that I have 3 or 4, actually in this case, 4 distinct parts, right? Remember that we didn't join these together. These are 4 individual parts. I have a part here. You can see this cylinder is a part. This part in the back is that linkage part. And then I have another cylinder here. If I wanted all of those to be together, right? Let's jump back over to the modeling tab. And I'm only going to deal with this one and show you what's happening here. Let's go ahead and click on the solid, or sorry, on the home tab. I'm going to use the union, which is located here. Then I'm going to highlight all of this. Go ahead and hit enter. And then once we go back to sheet number 2, I want you to take a look at what happened to that section now, right? So when I go back to sheet 2, it's going to automatically correct. And then it says, hey, these are all one piece now. So it's going to create it as one piece. So that's going to be up to you to determine how do you want your view to look, right? If you want those as individual parts, don't union them. If you want it as one part, then union them. Another thing I need to do is I need to move this over to here, right? So remember that this is connected together. The way that I'm going to have to move this is I'm going to select that view. I'll right click and open the properties window. And then I'll come down to where I see view alignment. I'll select in the drop down and then I'll choose broken, right? So when I choose broken, let's escape out of this. When I move this view, wrong view I selected. When I move this view, if it'll let me select it, okay, I have the view selected. I can grab this square. Now I'm able to kind of freely move this view around. If I turn the ortho off, you'll get a little bit more leadway with it, right? Okay, so that's that view. Well, maybe I wanted to take a look at this one and show you what the view looks like of the one that I created actually on the 2D drawing. All right, in order to create that, let's jump to the layout. I'm going to go to section, and then I'm going to select this view. And like we did before, I'm just going to touch this midpoint, track away from it, do a left click here. And then I want to stop it at this location, right? So I'm going to find the midpoint here. I'm going to come up and track it. And let's go ahead and turn our ortho on just so we keep everything nice and straight. And then I'm going to track it here. I'll do a left click here. Next, I want to go up to here. So I'm going to find this midpoint. I'm just going to touch it. And once I get the dream tracking, I'll do a left click here, and then I'll come this direction. And once I get to the outside of this, I will do a left click, hit enter, and then I have to determine which way I want to go, right? So if I go up a little bit and do a left click here, and then hit enter, you're going to see that it will create that view there that's going through everything, right? So that's why I was kind of telling you before that I accidentally created the wrong section going through my part here. I meant to do it this way, and in my drawing I accidentally made it the wrong way. Let's go ahead and move this down just to kind of show it to you a little bit better here. And move this one down. Okay. I'll move my text up a little bit as well. Okay. Just to show you that, yes. So I did create that very badly on that one there. Let's go ahead and move this up as well. Okay. And I'm going to also get rid of this assembly too underneath it. Okay. So I have two different sections running through this, and you can see that if we're using three-dimensional stuff, it knocks that stuff out rather easily. And I'll do ahead and do some sections and other stuff on this one here in a little bit, right? So with that one done, now let's go take a look at what our 45-degree one will look like, right? So let's go ahead and create another sheet. So I'm going to select sheet 2. We're going to do a right click on it, go to move or copy. I'm going to make sure I put a check in to create a copy box. And then I'm also going to select the layout 2 because I want to move it before layout 2. Go ahead and hit the OK button and it should create it. I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. It clears all of my views. Do a right click on this, do a rename, and then I'm just going to call this sheet number 3. Okay. So now I have sheet number 3, and I want to deal with the section that has that part that's rotated up at a 45. Now, remember that with this part, I left it as 4 individual pieces, so you're going to see some lines going through it. Let's go ahead and jump back to the modeling tab, and then we're going to go ahead and unite this one as well. So let's go to unite, or sorry, union, and I'm thinking unite, which is another three-dimensional programming term there. But I'm going to union. Select all of these parts and go ahead and hit enter, right? Let's go to sheet number 3. And then let's go ahead and take a look at this. Now, another thing I want you to also take notice that if I union that together, there is no easy way for me to break that apart. There's no easy way for me to slice that and kind of tear it apart to get it back to where it was. So make sure that when you're going to union something that's complex like this, and this is really not that complex, but it has multiple parts, that you can't break it apart easily, right? You can't take it back to what it needs to be easily. Okay. So let's jump back to the layout tab, go to base for model space, select the model space selection. We're only going to be dealing with this one. So I'm going to hold down the shift button, do a single click here, come across to here. Okay. Turn the layout. It should have this one view. Let's go ahead and put this on the 3/16 as well. So 3/16 equals a foot. And then I'll go ahead and place my first view here. Hit enter, come straight up, create my second view, hit enter. Okay. Oh, I didn't do the isometric. Just in case if you have these views created, go ahead and select your base view here first, right? And then I'll go to projected. And then once I move my cursor up here in the isometric view, it will create that isometric one for me. Go ahead and hit enter. Okay. So that's one way how you can project and create that isometric. Let's go ahead and change this one to make it look shaded with visible edges only. I don't need to see all the extra hidden lines on the inside. Okay. All right. So we have this one created, right? Now, this one is going to take a little bit more work, as you can see, to create that section that I'm going to need, right? Now, this is the one thing or the one limitation I do hate about this program, and then I'm going to see if it's going to work. Maybe they fixed it, maybe they didn't, but I'm doubting that they did fix this, and you're going to see what I'm talking about here in a second. Let's go to a section. I'm going to select this view. I'm going to go find the center of this one. I'm just going to touch it, and then I'll come out this direction, do a left click. Now I want to go across, and I'm going to click at this center. And now I want to go up at this angle, right? Now I can't go up at an angle because I have ortho turned on, so I'm going to turn off my ortho. I'm going to turn on polar tracking, and then I will select here my polar tracking and place it on the 45, 90, 135, right? Once I have that selected, I'm just going to do a left click here in the screen. I'm going to rotate up, and then you're going to see that I will get a tracking on this. Once it gives me my tracking at this 45 degrees, I'll do a left click here, hit enter. And this, depending on which way you want this to create, right? I can kind of create it that way. I can go at an angle, or I can come straight down if I want the arrows to go upward, right? I just want to go this direction. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going up, do a left click here, and then hit enter. All right, so it doesn't look like they fixed one of the things that is kind of one of my biggest complaints. And maybe someone, if you know how to fix this, please leave me a comment below. And what I'm meaning by this is that you can see that the hatch shows up on this side, but the hatch does not show up on the other side. I have no idea why that is, right? But I'm going to go ahead and select this view here, and I'm going to break the alignment just so I can place it over here on the side. Okay. All right, so I have no idea why that it does that. I can't use a regular hatch, and I'll show you that if I try to hatch this. I'll use the boundary hatch command. I can't select on the inside of this because this is a view, right? So what it's going to do is select on the inside of my title block. Well, that's not what I want. I'll go ahead and hit the escape button, and now I have to kind of delete this hatch that is going on my whole entire drawing here. So I really have no way of kind of hatching this, right? I guess my only other option, if I really wanted to try to hatch this, is I would have to draw a polyline, and I would have to actually come by and trace all of this like I'm doing right now. Oh, go back one here. In order to achieve what I want to achieve on this one. And once again, I will apologize that this is a kind of rough way of getting what you need to be created here, but until someone else shows me differently, this is the way that I had to figure out on how I have to do this, right? And then once I get to the end there, see enter. And now if I use the hatch command, so B hatch, then I can use the select option here. Go ahead and click here. And I can kind of get my hatch. Oh, it looks like I still needed to create a couple of lines on the inside of that. Let's go ahead and delete this. And once again, I will tell you that this is a rough way of creating something. Mainly because I'm going to have to come back and I'm going to have to turn these layers off. Let's go to B hatch, and then I can go ahead and put a hatch on the inside of here, as well as here. Right? So that's my main restriction of doing that, right? And now sometimes it will mess with your dimensions, because when I try to do a dimension on this, and let's see if it does, I'll set up the dimension styles here in a second, but I want to show you that sometimes it will not calculate the correct dimension here, right? And it's mainly because I have this extra hatch up on the inside of this, right? So what I usually do to combat that is I'll create a layer, and I'm going to just name this layer called hatch. Right? And let's go ahead and put this hatch on a different layer. And you can see that it automatically creates a hatch layer, but I'm going to create this one on my own. I'm just going to call this hatch layer green. And I'm going to make some consistency in here by making this hatch layer green as well. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to adjust this here in a second, or add a few more layers here as I need them. Let's go ahead and close this, right? So now I'm just going to put a window around that stuff here. Let's go to my properties here, and then I'm just going to put it on the hatch layer. Now the only reason I did that is that if I go and I turn the hatch layer off, let's use LA, hit enter, and I go and I turn this layer off, and let's go ahead and close this window here. That's gone. And now when I put my dimensions on, I can do that with it calculating the right dimensions, and then I can come back and then turn that on. So that's kind of my I guess if you want to call it pro tip for that, right? Let's go ahead and create a couple of more layers that we will need to get through. So I'm just going to type in LA, hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and create a center layer. So let's just call it CEN. And then I'll select this one. Let's create a hidden line layer we already have, but I'm going to create my own, which I usually like to do. And let's create a dimension one. And then finally I'll create a phantom layer, right? So PHA. All right, and I hope you can see these, and I'll try to remember to kind of zoom in on this as I'm creating this. Okay, so with the hatch here, or with the hidden one, let's go ahead and make sure that the line type on this one is hidden. The phantom one, that'll be fine. Let's make the hidden layers red. Or, yeah, let's make it red. That sounds good. Now I'm going to also make these two hidden ones red as well, because I like to do and make sure that everything is all looking the same. And these are just putting them on color number 1. Right, so we have those done. We'll take a look at our dimension layer. Let's make our dimension on magenta. So that's going to be this color here, or color number 6. That one is a continuous layer. Let's go ahead and do the phantom line, and let's make it on the blue layer, which should be color number 5. That's my phantom. Let's go ahead and load that line type. So I'm going to go to continuous, load. I'm going to scroll down till I find phantom 2. And hit the OK button, then select phantom 2, and then hit OK. And then lastly, I'll take a look at my center layer here. I'm going to go ahead and put that on color number 4, which is cyan. And then I'll go ahead and change the line type on this one as well. So I'll go to load. I'm going to scroll down to where it says center 2. Go ahead and hit OK. And then hit the center 2, hit OK. Go ahead and close this. All right, so now I have all of my layers and things of that nature set up. Another thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and adjust my section layers here. So I'm going to select this icon here. Go to modify. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn this on, right? So I'm going to go to where it says cutting line. This is going to be by layer, right? It's going to be a phantom line. You can already see the line weight of it is 0.5. I'll do the exact same thing down here at the bottom. Tell it to be on the phantom layer. And I can also leave this to be by layer if we really want to kind of make it a little bit more accurate. So if I leave it at by layer, let's go ahead and hit OK and see what that means. That means that now that if I select here and I go ahead and put it on the phantom layer, it should automatically kind of adjust to the way we like it, right? So that's one of the other things that we can do here. Let's go ahead and do our center line. So center layer, put it on cen. Right, then I'll do all of my center marks. Now I'm only going to dimension just this one sheet. Everything else will be exactly the same on any of the other sheets. So that's why I'm just going to only dimension sheet number 3. But these same principles would apply if you was doing this also on sheet number 2. Okay, so I'm going to jump to annotation. Let's go ahead and start putting our center lines on here. So I'm just going to use the bisecting one. Go ahead and select these two opposites, hit the enter button on my keyboard, and I'm just kind of going through this rather quickly, just so I don't have to kind of bore you with keep clicking on all of this stuff. Now remember that this one has that hidden hatch on it, right? So once you're done with all of this stuff, then I would turn my hatch layer back on, but you're going to have to do that after you do your dimensioning. Okay, And then let's go ahead and put our dimensions on here as well. So we're going to have a center mark here. I always like to select my bigger arcs. That's where I'm going to place that at. Okay, so all of our center marks are done. Let's go ahead and tell AutoCAD that we're getting ready to dimension and use the dimension layer for all of my dimensions. Let's go ahead and adjust it. Now we're using paper space here, right? So it doesn't matter which one of these we use. I'll leave it set to standard. Let's go to modify. Once the dialog box appears, we're going to start at the right and work our way to the left. So underneath our primary units, let's go ahead and suppress the trailing zeros. Underneath the fit tab here, we're going to leave this set to 1. Underneath text, we're going to go ahead and adjust this. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit smaller with 0.125. And then underneath these symbols and arrows, go ahead and set this to none. Hit OK. All right. Then I'm going to go ahead and close this. You can see that standard is my current one that I'm using. And then the first limitation that I'm going to show you is that I can't put this angle here, right? So if I try to use an angle dimension, it will not allow me to go ahead and select either that line there or this one. So we got to get a little bit creative on how we create this. So I'm going to use a regular line, right? So L, enter. I'm going to go from this midpoint and kind of draw a line out just a hair. Hit escape. Let me zoom in again. Let me draw another line from this endpoint going up this direction, right? Oh, let me undo that. Make sure I'm staying on the tracking here and then go to here, right? So I have a little bitty line there that's just kind of showing that, right? Make sure that you have your polar tracking on. So this is going to be the first dimension I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to angular. I'm going to select that line there and then that line there. These are the two lines that I drew. And then I'll go ahead and place this dimension. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the align dimension here. Let's go find the centers. So I need a center here. And sometimes it'll kind of switch to these midpoints and things of that nature. But it's nice or really good if you use your O-snaps on this. So if I go to center and then I click here, and I shift and right click and choose center and go to here, it's going to make sure that I do get this and don't get that little orange or yellow little caution box there, right? So that's telling me that that's 100. Let's go ahead and put another linear dimension here. So we're going to go linear. And let me see if I can get that orange little box to show up here. So I'll pick this endpoint here, and that endpoint, and go ahead and click here. And I know it's going to come up on one of these dimensions. I'm just kind of waiting on it. Let's go ahead and do all of our diameter dimensions. So I'll go to diameter. I'm just going to select this circle here. Hit the enter button. Go and do my next circle, which is located here. Enter. Let's see here. Enter. And now typically you use diameter symbols for complete circles or nearly complete. So if it's showing you maybe 60% of the circle, that's a good candidate to be using for a diameter dimension, right? So I'm going to use a radius dimension circles, and you see that these are not quite whole circles here. They're just kind of parts of it. So it's a good idea to use a radius dimension on that, and that's kind of the rule behind which ones to use. As far as my dimensioning go up here, these are going to be all linear dimensions. And when I use linear dimensions, I start off with this big dimension from here to here first. Okay. Now, I always like to, or try to prepare myself to kind of put the dimension on the side, and it'll stop me from having to break this command. So I'm just going to hit the enter button, and I want that dimension to be on the outside if it does go out there. So I'm going to select here first on the inside here, that inside, and lucky for us, it stayed on the inside. Here on the bottom, let's see if we get that. So I'm going to hit the enter button. I'm going to select this endpoint first, this endpoint second, and I'm expecting that to be on the bottom outside, which it is. Click there. Let's go ahead and place a dimension from this endpoint here to that endpoint. Just kind of keep working my way around this endpoint to here. I want the 40 to be on the outside here at the bottom, so I'm going to select here to here. I want that 10 to be at the top, so I'm going to select this endpoint first to this one. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at our section views, right? So we're going to put a dimension from that endpoint going all the way across to this endpoint. Likewise here. And then I just want to dimension all of the ones that have a center mark, right? So that's the center of that one. Center of this one. And the center going across of here, right? Okay. And if you want to make these reference, remember that the quick and easy way of doing that is basically if we select them all, let's go ahead and put a window across them. Over here in the properties window, I'm going to go down to where it says text overwrite. I'll use a open parentheses, less than, greater than, close parentheses, hit enter. So that made all of those reference. I'll hit escape, and then if I want to select the one that's going to have a diameter symbol in front of them, I'm going to select just those three. Come over to properties. I selected 4 things. I have the view there, but I'm just going to go to the drop down and select rotated dimensions. Come down to where it says text, and then in front of this it has an open parentheses. Then I'm going to go %% less than, greater than, and then close parentheses. And when I hit enter, each one of those should get a diameter symbol in front of them, right? Okay. And then the last thing you can do is you can easily put the word 2 places in front of, you know, this text here. But since I have both of them dimensioned, or well, I do have one of them dimensioned. This one is actually the only one that says 2 places. So let's go ahead and double click on that dimension. Go to N, hit the enter button, type in 2 places, right? And you can see that it is on top of my section line there, so really customary to move it. Make sure that it keeps out of the way, okay? And then lastly, let's see, we need to go ahead and put that back on, so let's go ahead and turn our layer back on, so LA. And then let's go ahead and turn our hatch layer back on. Close this. And once I close it, now we have our view. Here's another one of those commands that if you want this to be behind everything, there's a command called draw order. Shortcut for it is DR. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to select this polyline here, this line here, and then this line. Hit enter. And then I'm going to tell it to send it to the back, right? So once I tell it to send it to the back, should have did that. And let's see if we regen all and see what happens. Oh, still didn't send it to the back. All right, well, I tried. Sometimes that works, and I was hoping that it'll work on this view, but overall, you can see that it does look good. Oh, let's go ahead and change this to assembly too. I know I keep seeing little things and it kind of sticks out to me. All right. Okay, so that's going to be kind of the conclusion for this video here in AutoCAD 2D, right? Just remember that everything that I just did on all of this dimensioning, you can do the exact same thing on this view as well, right? So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you do like these type of videos, please, you know, keep coming back watching. I do love reading your comments and seeing how as I'm, you know, trying to help you guys learn more about AutoCAD, and sometimes some of the comments really do make me think. But thank you for all the people that are subscribing and that are contacting to me. And in the next time you're going to see me create this part, we're going to take a look at doing this in Inventor, right? So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to stay tuned for that next video. But until then, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Once again, thank you for your support. Bye-bye.